Hello everyone, I'm Levi Sorensen, the owner of Heartstone Gardens, and I'm here today to show you some basic, simple techniques for wire wrapping that I use in my shop. Um, this is a how-to video for any of you who are just getting started in wire wrapping and want to learn how to do some really nice wire wrapping without stressing out so much over it. First, we'll go over the tools that I like to use for my wire wrapping. The first are my pliers. There's your flat nose pliers. These ones are really small, but these are used for kind of the last finishing touches that I like to do on my wire wrapping. There's round nose pliers. Those are also used for kind of the last touch things on my wire wrapping. There's your cutters that are going to be used for cutting the length of your wire. These ones are by Beadsmith. They're PL5000, made in Italy, and they're made to cut a maximum of 2mm copper wire. I use a set of mandrels for making the loop to my necklaces. And then there's this wonderful tool that has these little plastic things on here that can be used as a grip. These are the tool that I use for making the spirals on the last finishing parts of my necklaces. So a lot of you will go out and you'll buy you'll buy your wire, you'll buy your tools. You can start with any kind of wire, really. Usually the best one to start with is copper wire. You can either start with 20 gauge or 22 gauge. It just depends on how thick you want your wire to be. The smaller it is, usually the easier it is to work with. And so I would recommend starting with a 22 gauge to start with your wrapping. You'll take a length about this long. And what I like to say is I'd rather have too much wire for what I'm wrapping than to not have enough. So if you have any leftover wire, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. And you'll want two pieces that are the same length. So once you get those cut to size there, you're going to take one end of the wire and you'll take your other side and kind of just match them up and put them together. And you're going to go down and you're just going to kind of find where the middle is at. You'll take that and you'll lay your wires so that they form an X, kind of like a crossroads. And you're going to twist them. I like to twist them like 4 to 5 times, but not really any more than that, depending on your stone. And you'll just twist them until they form this nice, tight little chain that you'll start with. And before I go any further, let's talk a little bit about the stones that you'll choose for your wire wrapping. If you're just getting started, I highly recommend that you start with a crystal. Just a nice, simple, cheap quartz crystal that's usually the best thing to start with. If you're starting with something that's kind of big and bulky and it's round, it's going to be really difficult for your first wrap to do. So I don't recommend starting with that. I recommend starting with slimmer stones that have a little more edges so it's easier for the wire to catch on them. So now that you have this little bend, you'll have it straight up and down. You'll take your crystal and you'll just put that against your crystal. So it's against your crystal like that. And then you'll take the bottom portions of these wires and pull them all the way around to the other side. And you'll kind of crisscross them so they form another X like you started with. And then you want to twist them the same amount of times that you started with on the other side. It's important that those match up. And then you'll push it against the stone. So now you have the top wires. There should be 2 on each side, and you'll just crisscross each side like you started, and you'll just twist those and then put them up against the stone on each side again. And if you're starting first with the crystal, you'll probably do this a couple times until you reach close to the top. So you'll just continue to repeat this process until you get close to the top of the stone. So if you get to the point where you're really close to the top of the stone, what you're going to do is you're just going to continue to twist the wire until it kind of comes up over this top of the stone so that both sides of the wire can meet. Okay. So now at the very top, there you can push them together and crisscross them. And then you're just going to want to twist these only about 4 times. Anything more than that, and you'll get a little bit too long of a neck for the top of your stone. So you should end up with 2 twisted portions like this, and you're just going to push them together so that they kind of line up and they're together. And now you have these 4 extra strands of copper wire at the top. You're just going to pull 3 of those and just kind of pull them to the side, and you're just going to work with 1 strand. This is where we make the loop for your necklace. You're going to take your mandrel or a screwdriver or really anything that's round to make your loop, and you'll put your wire against it and just kind of push the wire around it a couple of times so it creates your cord loop. And once you reach the bottom of however many loops you want to do, you're going to put that against that little neck that we made, and you're going to twist it around so that it secures the cord loop in place. And it also hides the twisting metal of the neck. So you'll just do that until you reach the bottom of the neck where you started to twist up. Okay. And then you'll just kind of take your flat nose pliers and you'll just kind of push the wire together so it kind of matches up and it's a little more together so it doesn't look really sloppy. And sometimes you'll have a little bit more than this amount of wire left over, and if you do, that's good to make a loop, but since this isn't enough wire left to make a loop, a spiral, I'm just going to cut it off. And then you take your flat nose pliers, because there'll be that little extra piece, and usually that little extra piece that you couldn't get to, it catches on things. So you just want to take your pliers and you want to push it into the metal so that it kind of forms into the metal, and so it doesn't, there's not a place for it to catch on anything. So now you pretty much have your necklace pretty much already all done. And you've got your 3 extra pieces of wire. You're going to take two of those and kind of pull them to this side like this. And then you've got this third piece that's kind of just extra and left over. I use that piece sometimes to put beads on it. Sorry, my cat's in the way. But since I'm just showing you the basics, right now I won't put a bead on it. So I'll just clip that off. So now you only have your two pieces. And what you want to do with these two pieces is you kind of want to just cut them to a short length, about that much wire. So you've got that much left over on one side. And you're going to do the same thing to both sides. This is where we get to make our spiral. You're going to take your flat nose pliers and go to the very end of your wire, and you're going to twist it so it's kind of this little hook. And once you get to that point where there's that little hook, you want to push that hook tight against the wire, as tight as you can, so that it's nice and formed into this little tiny spiral. And this is where these tools come in handy, is because if you're using your metal pliers to grip this end piece and twist and make the spiral, then it makes the spiral look all scratched up and it looks like it's not done professionally. And it just doesn't look very good. So if you have this tool where it's got these nice plastic grips on it, you'll grip the end of that spiral and you'll just twist, continuing the spiral. And you'll notice that because you're using this tool, it doesn't leave any scratches, it doesn't leave any abrasive marks that hinder the look of your necklace. And once you reach the end of the wire, you're just going to kind of push it down against the neck of that wire. So you have your spiral. And you're going to do the same thing to the other side. Make that hook, push it tight against the wire, and then use your tool to twist it and make the spiral. The very first wire wrapping that you do, it won't be perfect. You'll probably mess up a few times, but practice makes perfect. So if you just keep practicing at it, you will become really good at wire wrapping. Just keep twisting there, and once you reach the end, you're just going to push it flat against the neck there. So now you should have a spiral on each side of your necklace. You're going to take these top 3 loops that you made, or however many loops you made, you're going to kind of pull them apart so that they're kind of more apart and make it look a little more artistic. And you have your necklace, but we're not quite done. Now is when you take your round nose pliers. Any of the straight pieces that are left down at the base of the stone, where you twisted and there's those single strands of wire that don't really have anything to them. What you're going to do is you're going to take your round nose pliers, you're going to put it against the wire, and you're just going to make kind of a soft half twist until it makes this little, let's see, where's that? This little kind of dent in the wire. And what that does is it pulls the wire closer and tighter to the stone so that it's more secure and it looks a little more artistic. And you're just going to go and do that for each and every strand of the single straight wire that's left over to fit it tight to the stone. Okay, And once you're done with that, congratulations, you have your very first wire wrapped pendant. The one last thing I'm going to show you is just putting the cord around it. What I like to do is take your cord and put it at your fingertips and just measure a piece of string to about the center of your heart. And from there, you'll just cut it. So you have your necklace cord. You'll just feed that through your cord loop, bring it up, and crisscross the string and make a knot on one side, and then take the other strand of string, wrap it around in a circle, and make another knot for the other side. This creates this nifty little part of the string where you can adjust the length really easily. You can pull it tighter, you can make it bigger if you need it to be, and usually when you do that you'll have a lot of string kind of just excess from where you tied it. You're just going to cut a little bit of that off. You still want there to be a decent amount so that you can grip the strings and pull them tighter or pull them out if you need to. But after you do that, you have your very first wire wrapped pendant. Congratulations. If you have any questions about the techniques that I use or anything more that you want to see, something more complicated, feel free to leave comments in the section below if you have questions on my tools that I use or really just anything you want to know more about. Feel free to leave comments in the comment section below and I'll do my best to get back to you. Alright, thanks for watching this video.